from that I took as I borrow from my friend at UTM, University of Technology Malaysia, where I worked before. So, oops, screen mode. Yeah. So not into detail, but more or less more of uh, some what we have just discussed in the previous hour. Okay, so yeah, we can always divide biomedical instrumentation as discussed in the previous hour based on to which part of the body that instrumentation is implemented or is applied. Yeah, so based on this, we need to know some anatomy. Yeah, so anatomy itself deals with the study of organ structure. Yeah, in the gross anatomy, it's more of what can be seen with eye. Then if we go deeper, it goes to the topographical anatomy, so which deals with the organ's position relative to each other. And then if we go smaller again to the histology, the macroscopic anatomy, this studies the tissue and organ through the examination of its microscopical architecture. And for example, some diseases like cancer now, many cancer disease can only be the diagnostic can be established only when they capture or take some tissue, the suspected tissue, and then make what we call as the process called as the biopsy, and then conduct uh, histological analysis. Yeah, culture the tissue and then put a dye tissue tissue dye onto it, and then absorb using microscope. And based on the morphology of the cells of the tissue, yeah, including here at the cytological level, then the physician, the doctor can determine whether it is normal histology or not, whether it is a normal cell, normal tissue or not, or maybe already cancerous tissue. Some diseases like this is, for example, the cervical cancer. Yes, cervical cancer. If you ever heard about pap smear analysis, in pap smear analysis, the physician will take some small amount of the cervical tissue and then uh, and then send it uh, to the lab, to the laboratory, and then conduct this cytohistological analysis. You will put a dye and then observe under microscope. Based on the morphology of the cell, morphology of the tissue, then it can be determined whether the tissue is normal or whether it is already developing a form of tumor or cancer, at what degree. Similarly, also with breast cancer, for example, breast cancer, the screening or the first screening will be through, for example, mammography, using CT scan or X-ray, using X-ray at the specific part in the breast, and either two-dimensionally or three-dimensionally, or then another way is using thermal mammography. Thermal mammography is not using X-ray, but instead using thermal imaging of the tissue on the outside part of the tissue. And if there is an anomaly, if it is thermal mammography, usually in the form of different thermal. Thermal here means the temperature of the certain part of the tissue in the breast has different temperature compared to the others. Or in the case of CT scan or X-ray, then there is a kind of different density compared to the other surrounding tissue. Then the physician may have may have uh, expect or suspect, yeah, that there is a tumor or cancer cells or tissue growing. Then, but this is the diagnostic is not yet finished. It is not established yet. What then usually it is followed by biopsy. So a small part of the tissue will be taken and then put into the lab and then being cultured and then being dyed and then observed under microscope. to look again at the morphology of the cells as the tissue, whether it is normal or it has certain kind of tumor development or cancer being in development. So this is at the histological level. So at any of this level of anatomy, either it gross, topography, histology, and cytology, there are different types of instrumentation required to do the diagnostic. And we have spoken a little bit of the several examples of various different systems in the human body where the instrumentation may be aimed to. We have mentioned, for example, cardiovascular physiology, development of instrument to monitor the heart and blood, for example, in ECG, electrocardiography to monitor the electrical signal of the heart when it is beating. And we have mentioned also circulatory, respiratory physiology to do diagnostic of the patient's respiratory condition, especially the lung. Let's say, for example, COVID-19. How to establish diagnostic is usually the physician will conduct CT scan, to monitor the heart, the lung condition, and to image the lung by biomedical imaging, and then based on that, determine whether that person has pneumonia or not, whether has some abnormalities or not, and also classify whether that abnormalities come from different kind of diseases, because some other diseases also may cause pneumonia in the lung, but there is some differences between pneumonia, for example, caused by other diseases and by COVID-19, for example, etc., etc. So with many different examples at this different physiological system within the body. So here is the illustration at the different anatomical hierarchy within our body. So either the instrumentation may aim to the organismal level, let's say for biomechanical signal, for example, biomechanical signal diagnostic. Usually it is in the form of organismal level or at the system level, measuring, for example, the movement, the relative movement or motion of the hand or the leg, the limbs, when the person is walking or sitting and standing. So this is at organism level, the biomechanical organism level, biomechanical signal. Can also be at the organ level, like the ECG, electrocardiography, and or system, cardio, because depending, some complete electrocardiography is done at system level because the electrodes are located or are placed not only in the vicinity of the heart, some maybe in the hands or also in the legs, and measuring the blood pulsing and the electrical impedance difference between these different places in the body. But for wearable electrocardiography, maybe then the electrode will be placed into the organ, into the heart, in the vicinity of the heart. Then tissue level we have discussed. We have given the example earlier about on the cancer diagnostic, to where the physician will conduct biopsy and then try to know the morphology, to analyze the morphology, and based on that determine whether the tissue is still normal or develop certain kind of tumor. At cellular and chemical level or molecular level, cellular level, for example, when in some neurological disease, where the physician, the neurologist may conduct needle electrode, to conduct what you call it, is invasive electromyography, for example, at the muscles. Then or electroencephalography at the neuron cell level. Then at molecular level, as we can know also in the COVID-19 case, for example, the sample is being collected, and then the virus particle is being screened, and then the RNA of the virus is being converted into DNA first, and then being amplified, and using PCR, polymerase chain reaction, and then detected for whether that the RNA has certain gene or not that can relate it with SARS-CoV-2 virus, the cause of the COVID-19 disease. So is at molecular level. Also, so for so many others hereditary disease, genetic disease, the instrumentation aim at diagnostic at the molecular level also. The DNA will be purified from any usually blood from the blood, and then it will be after being amplified for certain gene, particular gene which is being suspected to have disease, being, for example, due to mutation. Then the physician will the lab clinician will do DNA sequencing, for example, and see if there are mutation or not. So these are different kind of instrumentation conducted at different level of anatomy within to conduct diagnostic. Yeah, this is some of our 11 human body system. Yeah, integumentary system, the hair, the skin. For example, if it is related to dermatology, diseases in the skin, also then the diagnostic will be done on the skin. Skeletal system, there are particular instrumentation also aim for to diagnose skeletal system, especially the imaging system, yeah, the X-ray and CT scan. Muscular system, usually the diagnostic is conducted using electromyography now, one of the gold standard, the surface electromyography. Can also they also use sometimes needle electromyography, invasive electromyography. The nervous system, the diagnostic can be done, for example, using EEG, electroencephalography, while for the peripheral nerve and the central nerve, they use EMG as well. Cardiovascular system, this is one of the main system within our body, and usually in ICU, all this monitoring equipment in the ICU is aimed to preserve the cardiovascular system so that the blood uh, can pump the blood can pump so the heart can pump the blood at the correct pace, so that then enough oxygen and enough nutrients are being circulated around the body. So all the instrumentation in ICU usually is aimed towards maintaining the well function of cardiovascular system. That's why besides the term ICU, there's also the term ICCU, intensive cardiovascular uh, care unit, is ICCU. Yeah, if you go to the hospital. So then lymphatic system, this is less popular, but also some diseases happen in the lymphatic system. Then respiratory system, like what happened now with COVID-19, mostly in the beginning, most of the COVID-19 symptoms are related with the respiratory system. Only then, only after a while, we know that the virus also attacks other system, including the digestive system within our body, because the stomach also has ACE2 receptor, yeah, which is being the this virus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, is attached to this ACE2 receptor in the digestive system as well as in the respiratory system. Then urinary system, yeah, in studied in urology, yeah, including the kidney, and this is the many instrumentation are also aimed at this system, like the dialysis, whose function is to clean and basically for people who have kidney failure to cleanse the blood. And then the endocrine system, the endocrine is responsible for the circulation of signal carrier within our body, which is the hormone. So by detecting the hormone within our endocrine system, something the physician, the endocrinologist can also conduct the assessment of our physiological system. Then the reproductive system, of course, studied in the Department of Medicine in obstetric and gynecology, as well as in andrology for male. Yeah, this is also, there are many instrumentation aimed at this system. Then classification based on the form of the signal itself, the energy form of the signal. Yeah, we have mentioned a little bit in the previous hour. Many of the instrumentation now capture or affect electrical signal by electric signal. We have mentioned EMG, EEG, ECG, which capture the body electricity, yeah, and then try to convert it into electronic, and then based on that, assess the physiological condition of the patient, of the subject. Then by acoustic signal um, is, yeah, we have mentioned also a little bit like stethoscope, and then also ultrasound is included in this type of, is in the instrumentation that manipulates by acoustic signal. Yeah, ultrasound transmit ultrasound signal, yeah, very high frequency vibration. Then the scattering of this ultrasound signal by the anatomy or the organ of the body will be captured by another transducer, by a sensor within the transducer, and then reconstructed as image. Biomechanical signal also, we have mentioned a little bit, like say for gait analysis, for muscular analysis, etc., is usually in the form of biomechanical signal. We have, I myself usually in this last 3 to 4 years in SGU have been also developing sensor and instrumentation to capture this biomechanical signal, using uh, carbon nanotube coated thread to capture the mechanical strain of the muscle, with with the purpose of similar to EMG to capture the muscular activation. Then biochemical signal, I've mentioned also a little bit, when this is usually when you go to clinical lab, yeah, and they take your urine or blood sample or saliva sample, then they will put it into certain kind of analytical device, then to know the content, the biochemical content of your body fluid, like for example, how many erythrocyte, thrombocyte, etc., and also some other biomarkers, glucose level, insulin level, etc., etc. I have also researched in this area, for example, with microfluidic device, where the aim is to reduce the size of chemical analysis equipment into small portable equipment. Yeah. The aim is in the future that we do not really need to go anymore to lab in order that we can have a full complete analysis of, for example, of our blood, of our urine, for example. It is still what the many researchers are aiming now, but it is not completely achieved yet. Then biomagnetic signal, I've mentioned some example on MRI, but there are other other instrumentation also that aim at manipulating, at acquiring or manipulating the signal. Then by optical signal, this one I haven't mentioned, but if you ever heard about not sphygmomanometry, plethysmography. Plethysmography is a device attached to the finger usually that can measure the SpO2, the oxygen level inside our blood. And this is this also becoming a bit popular because one of the COVID-19 symptom is that the respiratory function is affected, such that then the content of oxygen will also decrease inside our heart, what we call as the hypoxia, hypoxia. And some COVID-19 patients die due to what they said as happy hypoxia. Happy hypoxia is the patient seems like he or she can breathe normally. However, actually, then the content of the oxygen at his or her blood is below the normal level, because even though he can breathe normally, not enough oxygen is being absorbed during this respiratory function. So usually we need this instrument, this small instrument called the plethysmography to measure the oxygen level inside our blood. Then by impedance signal, this is similar to by electrical signal. If you ever heard about electrical impedance tomography, EIT, you can. There is one company near our campus in Alam Sutra, established by Dr. Warsito. If you ever heard his name, try to image the anatomy of the body using, in his case, is electro, not impedance, but one part of impedance. Yeah? You know that impedance is made from resistance as well as capacitance or inductance. In his instrument case, it will be only capacitance, uh, electrical capacitance tomography, ECT, or ECVT, electrical capacitance volume tomography. So uh, in his device, he unwrapped a kind of clothing, clothing which contain a lot of electrode, and some of the electrode will inject or they will measure the capacitance of the body, and if sometimes it can also inject actively some current and then measure the with another electrode measuring the received current, and due to the scattering and due to the impedance of the body, then they can reconstruct this tissue due to the impedance change of this current. So this is by impedance signal. So yeah, this slide gives some example of instruments aimed at measuring the bioelectrical signal. Yeah, I mentioned electroencephalography, put in the head. Now is also getting popular for brain-computer interface (BCI), one branch of biomedical engineering aiming to interfacing human and machine. So without the human having to input by typing or by saying voice, just by capturing the signal in the brain. So this is particularly useful for some people who have certain types of disease where it is very difficult for them to move their hand to type, or even also difficult for them to speak. For example, those people who may have some stroke, for example, then usually the brain is still functioning. Only some part of the brain are functioning, and then they can try to have certain intention. And this EEG can be used as brain-computer interface to capture that signal and recognize that signal to do certain analysis. Electrooculography, measuring the movement or the motion of the eyeball, yeah, and then based on that assessing some physiological condition of the eye. Electrocardiography we have discussed, electromyography also we have discussed. Then galvanic skin response, this is also measuring in some electrical parameter in the fingers, and then some part of non-invasive sensing, as we have mentioned, also by measuring the impedance. Then bioacoustic signal, we have also discussed some of the instruments that aim to capture bioacoustic signal or to manipulate the bioacoustic signal. Yeah, like ultrasound, stethoscope also is included within this type or classification of bioacoustic signal instrumentation. Then other biomechanical signal, yeah, like this one, gait analysis, sensors are being attached to the limbs, to the lower limbs in this case, measuring the motion, the steps. Accelerometer also. So basically now when you are installing certain type of software like step tracker, Strava, etc., you are using, basically you are measuring your biomechanical signal using your phone, right? Because the phone has accelerometer. So if you put your phone, usually some people put it in the hand to measure the swinging of the hand, or some people put it in their pocket. Yeah. Then when they run or they walk, this can measure the acceleration due to the motion of the leg. So this is part of measuring instrumentation, also to measure the biomechanical signal of our body. And then based on that, can assess how many kilometers you have walked, how many steps you have walked, and then can give some advice for you whether you need to walk more, to run more, etc., etc. Other types of biomechanical signals like this one, EMG, yeah, also for biomechanical signal, exercise physiology like this one. Then what else here? EMG analysis, posture and balance study, motor control, uh, like orthosis, like I have mentioned earlier, using exoskeleton to give also some stimuli to our neuromuscular system. For example, for therapy, yeah, for people who have stroke to conduct therapy. Then biochemical signal, yeah, to measure the biochemical marker within the living tissue or for body fluid, yeah, to be analyzed in the laboratory. The molecular signal are transmitted within the cell by the secretion of hormones and other chemical factors. Biomagnetic signal, MRI, for example, magnetic resonance imaging, is used to measure this weak magnetic field produced by our organs, various organs. And this technique is now developed quite a lot, besides also enhancing its resolution by more sensors. But also there is what we call as functional MRI. Functional MRI measure the magnetic resonance imaging of particular chemicals being injected into the body. For example, from there, then we can measure the activity of the brain. Yeah, this is used in neurology as well. Functional MRI, fMRI. Bioptical signal, yeah, this one I mentioned just now. Plethysmograph to measure. Here the case is where to measure the oxygen level of in the blood. Oxygen is usually carried by the hemoglobin, and hemoglobin is attached to the red blood cell. So it is by measuring the ratio between red wavelength and infrared wavelength by the photodetector, then we can estimate and we can calculate the oxygen content level within the blood. So this by impedance signal, yeah, measuring the impedance of tissue, so that then we can know the composition of the tissue, blood distribution, measuring galvanic skin resistance, GSR. Then it is besides passive measurement like this, just measuring the impedance directly. There is also a type of bioimpedance instrumentation that active in nature. Active means here similar like ultrasound. Ultrasound inject sound and then capturing the scattered sound. In bioimpedance signal, active bioimpedance signal instrumentation, the instrument will inject sinusoidal current into the tissue and measuring the voltage drop generated by the tissue impedance. So yeah, this is the block similar to what I have shown in the previous hour. If it were just diagnostic purposes, yeah, passive diagnostic purpose, then the instrument will measure certain type of energy form of the signal from the body. Yeah, either it is bioelectric signal, bioinfrared, biomechanical signal, and then from there measuring certain type of measurement within that particular domain. It could be the voltage, could be the current. In the case of light, could be intensity, could also be the wavelength response. Then captured by a sensor or transducer, which we have discussed in the previous session, yeah, 3 weeks ago. Then first using signal conditioner, amplifying, and then maybe filtering some part of the unwanted signal. And then you could either display it, you could or put in alarm. Alarm is important, especially in intensive care unit, so that then the system can give a warning to the doctor or to the nurse whenever the patient has certain critical condition, like when it is flatline, the ECG becomes flatline, and immediately the alarm will ring. Or the information can be stored in a data storage system so for further or for later analysis. Then there is also data transmission, data recording, and in this time, yeah, which is not yet included in this in this uh, in this slide. Even we have what we call as, especially after here. Let me draw it downward, yes, because there is not enough space here. What we call is data interpretation. Yeah, with the advent of artificial intelligence, especially in your generation. Now, actually, I have studied in my time as student. I have studied artificial intelligence in one of the lecture, one of the class, to credits class. But at that time, because the data collected is not that many, it is very difficult to really train the system based on that data, because the data is still few. Why? Because the sensor is not as pervasive as now. Now the sensors can be made small, can be put within your smartphone. Then there's your small smartphone. There are cameras, there are microphone, there are accelerometer, gyroscope, compass. Everything is now in this smartphone. At the time, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, this is still not possible. It is still a lot. So not a lot of data are being generated and being stored either in the locally in the local server or in the cloud in the internet. Then this data is of waste if it is just for storage. And then using this data, it is now possible to train certain system, computer system, to be able to interpret the data. For example, the paper that I have just uh, sent to the group a couple of days ago is how to measure the coughing data. Even now, very easy to collect cough data. You can ask volunteer, healthy or people who have COVID-19 to measure when they cough using the microphone in their smartphone, and then this data is being stored in that database by MIT voice data, and then the researcher can do analysis, data interpretation using machine learning algorithm. So this is now especially using a type of artificial intelligence. This is not the only algorithm available there for artificial intelligence. This is one of the now become increasingly popular algorithm of AI, which is machine learning. So where the system is being trained using thousands of data, and then to be able to recognize the pattern in the paper that I've sent you is between healthy and non-healthy COVID-19 disease patient. Yeah. Even within COVID-19, it can also discriminate maybe symptomatic patient with asymptomatic patient based only on the coughing voice, on the bioacoustical signal. So this is something new, which in the previous time there is, maybe, but not that popular. So in previous time, all the data interpretation have to be done by the doctors, by the physician. After you conduct X-ray in the lab, then you obtain this photograph of your X-ray. Then you go back to your physician, your GP, general practitioner, you show it, or your pulmonologist maybe, and based on that, he or she will interpret the data. Oh, you have pneumonia. Oh, you have this, then you have that. Oh, you are healthy, etc. But now it is being automatic, more and more being automated. Yeah, so we don't know in the future what will be the role of doctors. So it is now in heated discussion, heated debate. Even the doctors now becomes worried whether their role will be replaced by this the implementation of AI, artificial intelligence in healthcare. Yeah, like it or not, the trend is towards that direction, because as we know, the number of doctors as well, especially in our country, in developing country, is not that many. The ratio between doctors to the population is very small. Then, like it or not, we need to automatize some of the function of data acquisition, data storage, including maybe until data interpretation. Uh, the doctors are quite conservative. I've met, especially here in Southeast Asia, especially here in Indonesia. Yeah, this is recorded. This lecture is recorded. Maybe if it is uploaded, uh, some doctor may give some of their objection to me. But that is the case. Yeah, many doctors are not ready yet for this kind of change. Yeah, many of us actually, not only the doctors. So, but now, for example, if you have this Even now with your smartphone, if you put it inside the pocket and then you turn on some certain apps, it can capture your biomechanical signal, right? And what if if this biomechanical signal is collected, let's say by Google or by any other companies, and they can do analysis of your biomechanical, of your health, yeah, remotely based on this data. And it is made possible now by this machine learning algorithm. So yeah, the time has changed, the era has changed. So like it or not, we have to be ready. So including you, that is why the job of biomedical engineer in the future is not getting easier. It is getting more complex. You will need. That's why our curriculum is now has changed a little bit. You will need to learn many of these things, not only anatomy and physiology of human, biochemistry of human, but also especially instrumentation. A lot of our subject in our study program belongs to electrical engineering domain. So you need to learn about sensors, the amplifier, signal processing, etc. But you also need to learn about biomechanics, about software, yeah, about algorithm, data structure, and later in semester 7 there is a subject AI. Previously it was just what do you call it, optional subject, but now we make it as compulsory optional subject. So because you need to be ready for this. You need to be ready, uh, even though we cannot teach you all aspects of machine learning or data interpretation. At least you are introduced to some aspects of it. Okay, so this is the general block of any medical instrumentation system. Of course, as I mentioned, for therapeutics, then there will be additional block from the control system that going back here, yeah, especially this part, going back to activating or influencing the energy source to influence the human body. Yeah? So like I have mentioned some of the example, defibrillator, uh, what else? Cardiac pacemaker, dialysis system, etc. etc. No. So measurement is the physical quantity or condition of the system measure. Transducer we have learned in the previous session 3 weeks ago. Signal conditioner, we will review this in next week. It's supposed to be this week, but since last week we had holiday, then we will cover it next week, hopefully. And yeah, this system. I think the other cost of time, I will not go into the detail of the different operational mode. I will upload this to the classroom after this. But this is, you will study this more in more detail in next semester, yeah, in the sensor and measurement class. Yeah, this is some of the. This is just introductory. Yeah, this shows some example of instrument aimed at particular system. Yeah, for example, blood instrument. Yeah, blood pressure, sphygmomanometer, pH, blood pH meter, blood flow meter, spectrophotometer. For heart, yeah, I have mentioned pacemaker, defibrillator, but there are also heart-lung machine, plethysmograph, electronic stethoscope, phonocardiograph. Phonocardiograph is basically is using ultrasound, yeah, or also can use the stethoscope to generate the heart sound signal. If it is using ultrasound, then it can generate the image and the image of the heart heart function. Then instrument for brain is the EEG and tomography, yeah, using MRI or other imaging instrumentation. Muscle instrument EMG, muscle stimulator, which is a therapeutic instrumentation. Yeah. Then eye instrument oculometer, aid for the blind. This is also a therapeutic instrumentation. Yeah, some aid. Then in the future, maybe there will be an artificial eye, for example, to replace the eye for our brothers or sisters who lost their sight. Yeah. Then maybe like cornea implant, but maybe also smart eye implant. which immediately give stimuli to the retina. Yeah, when the defect is already at the retina level. When it is still on the cornea, then maybe a cornea implant will do, or maybe an artificial cornea will do to repair the sight function. But some people have the defect in their eye even deeper to the retina level. So then there are research on this to give artificial stimuli to the eye based on, so the artificial eye implant has camera but also has this stimuli to give electrical stimuli to the nerve behind the eye, so that then it can reconstruct the image that the camera sees. And it is all made possible because of the technology now is getting more developed with miniaturization of the sensor, processor, etc. Kidney instrument I have mentioned a little bit, dialysis instrument. Lithotripsy is also therapeutic instrumentation used to break kidney stones. The ear instrument, audiometer, hearing aid, this is also therapeutic instrumentation to amplify the sound and then give stimuli to the nerve inside the inner ear. This is body instrument, ultrasonic tomograph, physiotherapy instrumentation, diathermy, electrosleeper, vibrator, yeah, for massage, UV lamp, etc., etc. So I think that will be all for today. Are there any questions related to this general overview of biomedical instrumentation? Any questions? Anjali, Grace, Andy, Ezra?
Not yet, sir.
Not yet.
No, sir.
Not
yet, sir.
So it is quite clear, yeah? And I think, so now when you hear or listen to the news, you know, oh, PCR, what is PCR for? At least you can, this is for biochemical signal at the molecular level. When you hear about what else? For COVID-19, for example, infrared thermography, that is measuring biothermal signal. Yeah, it is not listed in the slide, but it is one type of biomedical signal as well, biothermal signal, measuring the human body, etc., etc. So that will be all for today, and please do not forget to fill in your online attendance. This hour it is 11:20. Yeah. 11:20. 1120, the one-time password. 11 you have class from Pak Kholis?
No, sir.
No biochemistry class?
Dipindah jadi hari Senin.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So we have one session 2 hours which is missing because of last week holiday. So do you intend to replace it just on week 15, or otherwise do you intend to week 15 means actually it's supposed to be silent week, or do you prefer to have it somewhere next week, an additional 2 hours session?
Gimana teman-teman?
Any idea?
Saya sebenarnya oke-oke aja sih. Tapi
What
kalau yang lain,
hours? Where do you have another 2 hours within the week?
Next week nggak apa-apa sih kayaknya.
Kenapa?
Kalau next week bisa-bisa aja.